Hello and welcome to the Sisters for Fitness Wellness Show. I'm Stephanie Gaines-Bryant. We have two guests today. We're talking to Dr. Marilyn Hughes Gaston. She's a doctor, as I just said. And we're also talking to Dr. Gayle Porter. She's also a doctor. So one of you is a medical doctor.
I'm a physician.
And the other is a psychologist.
That's correct.
Very good. So you have an initiative called the Prime Time Sister Circle, and you're going to tell us what that's about.
Exactly.
Let's begin.
Well, first of all, I want everybody to know that it's free.
Exactly.
That'll perk some ears.
And it's an intervention to really grab hold of our African American women in midlife, okay? There's no question, as we travel around the country, and we do a lot of that, we're still not really, even though it's better than when we started maybe 12 years ago in terms of our awareness and our knowledge and our initiative to really start looking at doing something about our health, it's still not where it needs to be. So the first thing we do is educate our women. We recruit them, we educate them, we examine their attitudes and help them change. You know, we have some attitudes about our health. Everybody does. But we also have some that need changing. We help them get motivated around their health and educate them about the outcomes, because most of our women do not know that we're dying at rates that are greater than any other group of women in the nation from heart disease, cancer, stroke, and diabetes.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. Let's state the problem. And one of the problems is diabetes, and we suffer at a disproportionate rate when it comes to that.
Absolutely.
A lot of that has to do with lifestyle. And so what are the things that we're doing that cause us to have these outcomes? Is it diet, nutrition? What are some of the things we're not doing, I guess I should say?
Well, it's interesting. Let me just say, too, heart disease is the #1 killer for everybody. Cancer is the #2 killer for everybody. Stroke. But diabetes is #1 for only us in terms of death. So I'm interested that you pointed that out.
Well, because I'm a diabetic.
Oh,
So,
yes.
so I'm particularly interested in
Yeah.
that, and I know
I know.
that diabetes is killing us.
Right. One of the things they also don't know, most of the public, and certainly not our women in our experience, is that when you look, CDC did a study a few years ago, and what they looked at, what are the determinants of how long you're going to live, how healthy you're going to be? And they came up with some main ones. One is genetics, okay, but not so much with these chronic illnesses that are bothering us. The other one was the environment, you know, poverty, secondhand smoke, asbestos. The third one was your health care, okay? Those were all important, but all added up, that was about 50%. One thing was 50%, the other 50%. One thing was the major factor, and that's our lifestyle, our own behavior, what we do every day to try to get healthy. Try to get healthy, try to stay healthy. And that's the message that we start with, that it's in our hands, okay? It's not from outside, really. It's what we do every day that really has impact on our health and our life expectancy.
You all authored a book, Prime Time, The African American Woman's Complete Guide to Midlife Health and Wellness. What prompted you to write the book?
Well, we called her our baby, and at her birth took 4 years to do. But we wrote it because we've been friends for about 39 years, and we were talking on the phone, and I said, Marilyn, I've got to get off because there's a show on BET on black women in midlife.
And I
she
said, I'm on this show too.
Exactly.
I forgot about it. I'm glad you mentioned it.
Right. So we went, and Sharon Pratt Kelly, Pam Grier were all on the show. And the response was just tremendous. And so when I got back to my office, I was on faculty at Hopkins at the time. I was at a meeting early, and my secretary said, Dr. Porter, what did you do last night? She said, we've had all these calls So people were calling me at Hopkins
And me, the same
Dr.
thing.
Gaston at
At the Public Health Service, Federal Public Health Service.
asking where can we get more information about black women in midlife. And we went out and there was no information about black women in midlife in any one place. So we decided that we were going to write a book. And we didn't want to just write a book. We did focus groups to find out what did black women want to know about. We decided that we were going to do it together as a physician and as a clinical psychologist, because see, we know that you have to have the mind, body, spirit, that it can't be just the mental health people there and the physical health people there and the churches over there. And so that's what this book was. The women said, we want a health book that we can write in, that's a diary for us. And so we came up with this baby girl who has been an Essence bestseller and is now going into, it's been out now for 15 years. We've revised, in fact, we just revised it 2 years ago. But it was from the book when we made the recommendation that black women needed to be in a support group to change.
Well, tell me, what's the biggest challenge that African American women in midlife face?
I don't think that there is one challenge, but if I were to say to prioritize the challenges, the biggest one is that we take care of everybody else before we take care of ourselves. And as we say to Christian women, you forget what Jesus said, that you are to love others as you what? And they go, oh, that's right, love ourselves.
And we remind them, when you get on that airplane and that mask comes down, what do they tell you? They say,
To take care of
yours on
yourself
first. And then you can take care of everybody
Everybody.
else. But if you're not taking care of your emotional health, if you're so stressed or you're depressed and you don't want to even acknowledge it to anyone, and yet you're surprised when your physical health starts going down the tubes. And you know, that's another thing in our community, is that we don't like to acknowledge that we're stressed or depressed. I remember a few years ago I was on Georgia Avenue at a CVS, and this sister had on a big button that said, I'm too blessed to be stressed. Now, sister's hair was all over her head. She was snapping at everybody. I'm in back of a brother who said, oh, you can go ahead of me. But in her mind, there was something about stress and acknowledging it that meant she would be weak. And I gave her our card and I said, sister, I give a talk called I'm Too Stressed to Know How Blessed I Am, and we have a program called the Primetime Sister Circles that we want you in. So the not prioritizing ourselves, the difficulty in acknowledging what we're going through, and then just the lack of knowledge about our health in terms of what are the risk factors for heart disease, for stroke, for diabetes, for cancer. So that's why I'm saying it's a combination, but the first step in changing it is to acknowledge that we need support. We need to take care of ourselves, so then we can take care of everybody else.
I'd like to add just one
Sure.
other thing. That is the first step. That if they don't focus on themselves first, they're never going to. It's in their hands. You know, we've talked about that 50%, this lifestyle, and it's in our hands. And the key to that then is prevention. Prevention, prevention. Living a daily life of prevention. And most people don't know, well, what does that mean? What does that look like? So there's a lot of information that goes into that. There's a primary prevention, which means every day you do things to prevent yourself from ever getting it. For instance, you don't smoke because you don't want to get lung cancer or heart disease. You practice safe sex because you don't want to get an STD, sexually transmitted disease. I said that once in a room. A lady in the back stood up and said, Dr. Gaston, I would practice safe sex if I could find some. I said, well, that's another topic for another day. But there are things we do There are all kinds of behaviors. You mentioned nutrition, fitness, stress management, those kind, all that wrapped up in one. Those are major risk factors for these chronic illnesses that we just mentioned. Good nutrition, activity, and managing our stress. Not taking good charge of those is killing us. But we also use them to prevent, primarily. Primary prevention, if we really learn how to do those skills. Okay, like she said, it's important to know, how do you read the food label? What does fitness look like? How do you do yoga? Okay, those people know that would be good, but how do you do it? That's what the circle does. Now, secondary prevention, real quick, means you can't prevent everything. So I have hypertension, okay? I have a family history of diabetes, but I'm preventing diabetes. I'm not getting diabetes. And even with a family history, you can prevent it. So every day, I'm wrestling with it. I'm managing my nutrition. It's almost the same as for primary prevention. Nutrition, fitness, and stress management.
Well, let's specifically talk about the Primetime Sister Circles. What exactly is the program?
It's a 13-week program where sisters come together, 20 to 25 sisters come together. Again, we want to emphasize it is free. And we currently, it's all in the community, so we do it in churches, we do it in public housing, we do it in recreation centers. It's funded, our current Primetime Sister Circles are funded by the AstraZeneca Healthcare Foundation, but we just got a 5-year grant from NIH where we're going to work with sisters in DC who have hypertension and who are part of Unity. So any black woman 40 to 75 who is in need of support to change her health outcomes, this is a program to come to. They can call 202-403-6266.
And we'll give all of that
Right.
information
And that
at the end of the program.
they can join. And the best thing about the program is you have support. You have other sisters helping you to change, and yet at the same time holding you accountable, saying, girl, I don't want to hear that you didn't get a chance to walk because you were driving so-and-so to his sports game. When he is looking at you in a diabetic coma, you're not going to be able to say, but it was okay because I drove you to your sports game. And I want to say this, while we're talking, there are thousands of black women dying from preventable diseases. Thousands of us who are not around to live a healthy life, not around to enjoy our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren, not around to help support our churches or our mosques or our temples, because we did not take the step to do it. And that's why we want them in the Primetime Sister Circle.
So you deal with the sisters' physical health, their mental health. What kind of things do you do? What kind of activities do you do, or what do you teach?
I'd really like to tell a short story that demonstrates the whole aspect of the spread from the midlife woman to her family and the ripple effect of good behavior, healthy habits, okay? So when they enter the Primetime Sister Circle, the facilitators ask them why they're there, what are their goals, etc. But they also say, now go home tonight and tell the people that live with you what you've done, why you've done it, and how your life is going to change, because you're going to shop differently, you're going to cook differently, you're going to move, and your time is going to be limited, etc. So this woman in the circle here in DC who had adopted her little 9-year-old grandson because her daughter, his mother, had died from AIDS, she went home and sat him down. And she said, baby, your Nana has joined the Primetime Sister Circle. And he said, great. He said, what is it? He said, well, this is going to help me get so healthy that I'm going to live long enough to see your grandchildren. He said, great. And she said, now join me. You know, we're going to exercise together, etc. So as she was learning stuff, she was teaching him. So after she learned how to read the food label, she taught him, a 9-year-old. I would never have thought to teach a 9-year-old, but she did. So one day they're in their neighborhood store shopping. He's running around, and she's shopping, and she told her sisters the next week, she said, you know, they had Doritos on sale. She said, I knew I didn't need those Doritos, but I couldn't. I love Doritos. So she said, she piled up her basket, and she got her salsa, and she's checking out, and they're on the belt, and he catches up with her. And he picks up a Dorito. He said, Nana, what is this? She said, that's a Dorito. But he said, I know this is Dorito. Do you see how much fat is in here and how much salt? And they only talking about 5 Doritos. The serving size. She had really taught him well. So he went and pushed them all up to the cashier and said, my Nana's not buying any of this because she's going to live long enough to see my grandchildren.
That's right.
Wonderful.
Isn't that a great story?
It's
a great story.
story.
We have many good ones.
You have sister circles in what areas?
Well, we have them all over, really, the Northeast and in Florida. So we've had about over 3,000 women to go through the program in Tampa, Orlando, Memphis, Rochester, New York, Philadelphia, and also Chicago. But the bulk of our circles have been done in Maryland. So we've had circles in Bowie, Baltimore, Montgomery County, all throughout Prince George's County.
So you have several going on at one time?
Exactly. Oh, we have multiple. Like right now, we have 5 circles that are going on in D.C. and Prince George's County, and we're going to be adding another 4 circles to that number. And with the NIH grant, we're going to do about 20 circles in D.C. And these, again, are all women
600
who are
women. 600
Unity
women.
patients. But the circles are concurrently going, and that's why we're encouraging women, to call and to find out where a circle is going to start in your area so that you can join. But I would like to just follow up on what Marilyn was saying about the spread, because we do a lot of role play in the circles because, sisters come in and they've really never learned how to be assertive. Now, they might know how to be a little aggressive and they might know how to be passive, but really being assertive. So we role play that. And one of our sisters shared with her circle, she said, I love my church. She said, but the pastor is saving my soul in the sanctuary. She said, but when I go down to that fellowship hall, my body is being killed. She said, and I think
And that's typical of many churches.
to leave the church, and I don't want to. So the sister said, well, let's role play how you can go and talk to the pastor. So she did. And 2 weeks later, he announced to the congregation, he said, now I'm not ready to give up the potato salad. He said, but we're not having any more fried food. He said, that's out. Now, her willingness to share with her sisters, to get their support, to do her role play, gave her the courage to go to the pastor and change a whole congregation. And this is what we see as the power of the circle, that as we say to the women, first you learn how to take care of yourself. Once you know how to do that, you're a warrior. In fact, we play the song Revolution by Kirk Franklin because we say you are revolutionaries. You're going to go and change how our community sees its health because we don't want
After
our
first
sisters.
Changing yourself.
Exactly.
The revolution starts with you.
That's
what do
right.
you say to the women who say, I don't have time for this? I've got this to do. I got to take Junior to football
Soccer.
practice. I've got this church. I got the choir practice. How am I going to make time to invest 2 hours for 12 weeks into a sister circle?
There are a lot of ways we approach that, okay? And the first one helps to give them some assessment or some information about time for yourself. You don't have time for your health. You don't have time to increase your life expectancy. You don't have time to increase the quality of your health. And certainly if you're taking care of Junior, you can take care of him better if you first are in good shape. So first of all, there's an awareness that has to happen that you're not really prioritizing yourself. And that gets explored too. And we have each woman look at for themselves, why is it that you don't have time for you? Why are you on the bottom of the pile? Okay? You're God's temple.
I always make the analogy that we have time to get our hair done. We will spend all day,
If necessary.
Absolutely.
if necessary, in the salon
That's right.
to take care of that, but we won't take care of our bodies.
That's true. I also give the example, because I had an epiphany myself. I was very busy. I didn't have time to exercise. I said, no, this has to stop. And we know that just half an hour
30
a day,
minutes.
30 minutes will cut your risk for heart attack in 50%. Bam. Half. Cut it in half.
And stress.
30, absolutely. Stress also. With diabetes, all you need is 30 minutes of exercise, and then if you lose only 5 to 7% of your body weight, you will cut your risk for diabetes by 68%. Now that's powerful. You cannot ignore those. Those are the facts.
So that's enough to, that knowledge to make you make time.
So then what I tell them is, I called my secretary one day. I said, you know, I'm looking for 30 minutes when I can exercise. And so we're just going to put that on my calendar. Because I looked at my calendar and everybody was on my calendar but me. I said, oh no. We couldn't find 30 minutes. So I said, well, wait a minute. In one day, 24 hours, there are 48 30 minutes. 48 of them. We're looking for one. And you mean I can't find one half an hour? Gave me an epiphany, because I knew that was ridiculous. Whether I had to take time management courses, whatever I had to do, and the women they have an epiphany too. They say, wow, that is
How did
right.
you find it though?
Well, I found it because I cut out some other stuff I was doing I didn't have to do. Or I added a half an hour in the evening. I had it before I started my day, and that's what I do right now. I do it as early as I can do it. I have more energy then, but also once you start your day, you do get, the time gets shorter and shorter and shorter, and it's harder to find. But every individual, and our women find it, some do it at lunch.
Well, what was your recommendation for people who say, I don't have the time?
Well, you know, it's interesting because Marilyn talks about the 24 hours and you're looking for one half an hour. I think about the fact that there are 168 hours a week and you can't find 2 hours. And like you just said, you can find 5 to get your hair done, but you can't find 2 for this temple. But I think for me, I was at a circle helping to do some things. And one of the facilitators, there were 2 sisters. In fact, in Ward 8, they were at Mayor Berry's office, and that's where we were having our circle. And these 2 women came in, both grandmothers, and they had their children. Now, children aren't allowed in the circle because that's your time to focus on you. And the women were very upset when they heard that the children couldn't stay in the circle. And I'll never forget, the facilitator said, and remember, all our facilitators are black women in midlife, so they know this place. And she said, sister, tell me something. She said, now, you raised the parents of those children, is that right? And both women said, yeah, these are our grandchildren. She said, and you mean to tell me that you don't believe that you have earned the right to take 2 hours a week to keep yourself healthy and to role model for them what you want them to do? Because they were both girls. She said, you're telling me that you don't have enough space, family, friend support to say, I'm taking 2 hours for myself, just 2 hours once a week. The next week, I had to go back because I had to see it. The women showed up, and that's when I heard what was for me something I'll never forget. This woman said, nobody has ever told me that I have the right and the responsibility to take care of myself and to give me permission to do it. So what we say to women, is that if you don't give yourself permission to love and care about you, but yet on Sundays you go to church, and like Marilyn said, you say you're a temple of the divine. What kind of temple are you sharing? What kind of temple do you have if you're not taking care of it? And
Now,
that resonates with our women.
in wrapping up our discussion, because we only have a few minutes left, I want to leave this on a positive note. What has, and you've told some success stories already. What has the overall success been of the Primetime Sister Circles?
I couldn't wait for that question. Oh, I tell you, it just so excites me as a scientist. We're getting results that if NIH, and hopefully NIH will see it because we do have an NIH grant, it's phenomenal. We're getting 20, 25, 30% drops in their blood pressure in just a 3-month period of time. From hypertension, they're not hypertensive. They're hypertensive when they come into the circle. About 52% are. Nationally, about 52% of us as African Americans are hypertensive. 1 out of every 2. So when you go to church the next time, look around, half the church, it's a major problem for us. Not only is it very common, for the white community, it's 1 in every 3. So 50% for us. Also, it's more severe. We have more complications. And it's a major risk factor for, it's the #1 risk factor for us to have a stroke. And it's also #2 in terms of heart disease. So the fact that we are able to have women really manage their hypertension is a success that is very, very powerful.
And their stress, they're eating better, and they're exercising. They're doing the fitness. And we have published 3 articles in the Journal of the National Medical Association documenting the changes that our program has brought about in the lives of these women.
And they're losing weight. Even though we're not mainly a weight loss program, it's a holistic, program.
Very good. We've been talking to Dr. Marilyn Hughes Gaston and Dr. Gayle Porter. We've been talking about the Primetime Sister Circle, and we'll give all of that information at the end of the program. And this is part 1 of a 2-part program we're going to do. The second part of the program, we're going to specifically talk about women over 50 and the challenges that we have to deal with. Thank you so much for joining us. You've been watching the Sisters for Fitness Wellness Show. I'm Stephanie Gaines-Bryant. Have a great day.